It'd be great to understand a little bit around your kind of upbringing and early life, and then how you made the jump into procurement.
Certainly. As a lot of people have ended up in procurement, not intentionally, I think is the answer. I did a languages degree at university, and as part of that, I had to spend a year abroad, and I went to Paris, and I worked in the purchasing department of American Express. And that was purely through an applications process on available roles, and I didn't really know anything about procurement at the time. And from there, after university, I ended up going back into it, and I've been there ever since.
Wow. And did you ever know about about procurement growing up, or while you were in university? Was it something that?
Well, not really, I don't think is the honest answer. I think it's one of those things that you kind of don't think about but know that it happens. And I think back then, so this is going back to 1997-8 that I was in Paris. I was there for 14 months in the end. It wasn't the function that it is now. And I think that evolution was driven partly by time passing, but also by some of the financial challenges, in particular probably 2008, that have changed the way that procurement is viewed within businesses, within central government, local government, whatever it may be, and has pushed procurement into a different place. So I think that there was an evolutionary path that got hastened by financial crisis. From a personal perspective, it was purely the opportunity to work with a company like American Express in whatever department they offered me, quite frankly, and it just happened to be purchasing and administration, and that's where I started.
Great stuff. And then fast tracking to your current role as MD of Capita Procurement Solutions, I think it would be quite helpful for the audience just to quickly describe what Capita Procurement Solutions is and how procurement sits within that organization.
Certainly. So we are the client-facing procurement consulting business within Capita. So we manage both our own directly owned clients, but also we operate within the wider, larger relationships that Capita has with many private sector and public sector clients, executing the procurement elements within those wider multi-service line relationships. So it's a a hybrid of directly owning clients, but also supporting the internal ownership of big clients. And as far as it's concerned, we have everything from small clients who are seeking 3 or 4 days support to validate, say, ERP strategies, all the way through to clients who will ultimately be with us for 15 years. So it's a huge variance. And as far as how the function is the capability is set up, it's a pretty traditional procurement consulting business. But clearly where you've got the difference between, say, a managed service over a large, long contract to a short consulting, we have a pool of expertise, which is, again, a very traditional approach that can be called upon to support those clients.
Great stuff. And again, just for the benefit of context, how many people do you have in your team, Jonjo?
Again, it's a difficult question to answer because some of our procurement capability sits within within the wider client and longer relationships. So I would say that all in all, within both the direct employees, the wider capability that sits within the bigger partnership relationships, but also we have a thing called a contractor networking approach. It's probably around 150.
Great stuff. And what are some of the challenges that you and your team are currently facing?
So many at the moment, I think, is the answer that is probably common to lots of people. To be honest, when COVID hit, we pivoted to working from home instantly. I mean, there was no loss of service to any client. And I think that doesn't make us special in a consulting context because most consultancies do work remotely and are therefore very easy to be able to pivot. We had some teams who are fixed within client offices that had to be mobilized and sort of get used to the working from home because of COVID. But beyond that, it was pretty seamless. I think within that, though, I think it's the change of focus, and I think rapid agility, rapid response, reaction to what COVID was doing, the ability to be agile, the ability to reflect new requirements, the ability to support clients in their pivoting to working from home so that their underlying business objectives weren't compromised. Those were difficult, but in some respects, those were also great fun. Succeeding in those challenges is a fun experience to go through, even though clearly with COVID, fun is possibly not the word that you would want to use. And I think as it settles now, it's pivoting to some of the changes that are going to come through. And I guess we'll talk about those as we go through, but I think the use of technology, managing risk, creating alternative supply chains, those are the challenges that we're facing, and how technology is used. I think technology in the coming 2 or 3 years and how that is deployed is going to be an interesting journey, and probably again that's going to be a faster evolution for a lot of companies to ensure that the likes of COVID won't impact them the same way again. COVID has most definitely shone a light on areas of immaturity or ineffectiveness within our world, and I think a lot of companies are going to be putting the foot down to improve in many areas.
As a procurement professional who's progressed into leading a company in a managing director role, how has your role changed, and what are your kind of responsibilities now, Jonjo, as MD of Capita Procurement Solutions?
It's funny, actually. Somebody asked me that probably 6-7 months ago in a similar sort of conversation. I think become an enabler. I do very little direct delivery. I do a couple of our European clients because that's where I come from. That's my background, and that's really something I enjoy. It being in the role that I have now, I do miss the sort of the coalface. I do miss being involved. So I do still indulge myself by owning a couple of our European clients. But I think it's becoming an enabler, because if I'm not the person who is keeping a client happy with delivery, I need to ensure that the teams I've got have the best environment, tools, skills to delight your clients. So in many ways, I think it's the realization that I actually work for them. I work for the team. My job is to understand the things that are preventing us delivering brilliantly and remove those barriers, be those technology, be that training, be that some of the challenges, again, that we've had to deal with because of COVID-19 in creating flexible working environments for people, in particular those with families. So so that's one aspect. And of course, when you sort of get to this position, you become responsible for all those things like numerical performance. You've got the risks that you need to manage. It's the oil tanker mindset. It's not necessarily what's directly there. It's also looking beyond to the what's on the horizon and trying to ensure that you navigate more acutely towards that. I'm also very lucky because I have a good team around me of people who have been in this industry for their careers as well, which is fabulously helpful. But also we recruit people to challenge us. We don't recruit people to do what we ask them to. We bring clever people in to say, this is, you're a bit old school here. You need to think more forwardly. So I would say that it's probably the responsibility and the people side that is probably the biggest change.
Fantastic. And on the note of hiring people, what do you look for when you're interviewing somebody for a role at CPS?
Many things, depending on what part of the business that they're coming into. A lot of market requests at the moment are for expertise, be that within a category, be that, say, within system integration. And you need to ensure that your people that you're bringing in have those skills. But outside of that, you're looking for people who have got good interpersonal skills, people who can create relationships with their own teams and with the client teams. That's a key part of what we do, is people and people relationships. Freshness, people who are properly enthusiastic. It doesn't always matter if they haven't got the experience that you're looking for. If you see people who have got that light behind the eyes that says, I'm going to give you everything I've got, and you don't, I will make this work. So I think it's a mixture of those. Yes, of course, there are accreditations that people will come to you with, but outside of that, experience in procurement clearly is one, but also being somebody who's enthusiastic goes a long, long way.
And at this point in your career, Jonjo, what are you most passionate about when it comes to procurement?
Definitely people. I think in some respects, the passion in the last 12 months is probably evolving a little bit, because I think we've got a huge role to play as we come out of COVID-19 in supporting businesses recover, businesses survive, people get back into the workplace. So I think there's an awful lot that we have an opportunity to help there, and I'm quite passionate in doing our piece. We are supporting on initiatives like the Kickstarter campaign, and wider than that within social value activity. I look forward to seeing how those are going to develop and support, UK PLC recover. But it's always the people. If you're not passionate about creating good environments for people to have rewarding careers, then every other aspect of what you try to do as a business will be more difficult than it needs to be. So yeah, it's creating good opportunities and good working environments for people, and staying part of that continued conversation with the market around and how we evolve and what we do.
Great stuff. And what would you say are some of the key focus areas for procurement right now?
So I'll answer that by saying, what are we being most asked for? It's probably into 4 areas. So risk management, so all aspects of risk within supply chain. It is savings. People clearly are going to need savings in these difficult times. A bit of supply chain conversation. So the alternative supply chains, people are slightly aware that they probably put too many eggs in one basket within a lot of their supply chain networks. And social value. No question that a lot of the central and local government conversations that are being held at the moment involve a strong element of social value and all of those components as part of the ongoing conversation. So those, I think, are probably the 4 things we talk about the most.
And that last element, the social value side of things, we're having lots of conversations with clients at the moment around sustainability. You're probably having similar conversations. What kind of trends are you seeing in that space, Jonjo?
Across the board, I think there has been a growing conversation around social value. It's not just COVID that has, kicked this off. It was there as a conversation beforehand, but undoubtedly, again, COVID has hastened the need for procurement to ensure that it contributes more to the wider social context. But I can remember 10 years ago having conversations with councils where they were having spend it local agendas, which was around local social value. So that it's not a new conversation. I think sustainability falls as part of that social value. So within social value, you have all sorts of things like apprentices coming into work, so people at the starts of their careers. You've got ex-offenders, you've got ex-armed forces, you've got back to work initiatives, you've got environmental components, which are clearly very important. And I think there is definitely, and has been for a few years now, a much clearer demand for environmentally compliant procurement, and through the supply base effectively. But you've also got, social in the context of, where you're getting your product from, not just that, is it China? What's the context, the political context of everything? So it is really across the whole board that you're seeing sustainability, not just environmental sustainability, but the sustainability on all of those components as part of a social value piece. And we are, I'm not going to pretend we've mastered all of them, but we're working hard to be better at all of those with our clients on a very diverse range of client requirements across those areas as time goes by.
Great stuff. Thank you. Now tell us about your biggest achievement in your procurement career to date.
I think that, I've probably got a couple, but so I'll give you one, which is where we've got to as a practice at the moment. I think we are certainly in the last, 3 or 4 years, making great steps as far as the consistency, expertise, consistency of delivery, consistency of execution, the expertise that we've got, a lot more client-centric in terms of working much more collaboratively with clients to understand what they're trying to do and what journeys they're on. So I think, the business that we have become and matured to is certainly something that's makes me smile. I guess if I went back to my days of delivery, I worked on some pretty complicated, global, but mainly pan-European supply chain programs that were very complicated. I used to live in Germany for 3 years doing that. And I think the cross-cultural collaboration throughout Europe to execute, single strategy approaches to supply chain and all the procurement that sits within supply chain, it's never easy. It's a complicated thing to do. And I think we had a lot of fun doing that. And I think that was a very successful outcome at the end of that. I think I ended up doing that for about 5 years with one client. So it was a lot of fun.
Great. And what skills do you consider essential to being a procurement leader?
Listening, I think is key. I think if you end up telling people what to do all the time, they don't grow. If they don't grow, you end up having to keep telling them what to do all the time. And that's not a sustainable path to develop a business. But patience, understanding, listening. At the same time, you've got to recognize that at some point you will end up making the decisions and you will be accountable for them. Acceptance that you're going to get some things wrong, but when you do get them wrong, that you're going to understand and accept that that error quickly and move forward to get things right. Get the right people with you. Don't think that everything sits on you. You can't know everything. There's so many categories that we work with. There's so much legislation with what we do, that you need to accept that there are absolutely people who are far better and more knowledgeable than you on lots of areas, and being ready to listen to those people and work with them to ensure that it's the right way forward is key. I think those are probably essential skills.
Great stuff, thank you. And what's the best lesson you've learned in your procurement career so far?
That I didn't know it all. Like many people, I suppose. Yeah, I was told very early in my career by somebody that it was quite, that you'd lose your job in your career 2 or 3 times. That was one big lesson he said. He said that the workplace was changing, and that people, younger people in particular, in regards to technology, were going to come flashing through you and past you and above you. So it's a little bit of reality check that the world evolves quickly. Staying at pace with it all is a hard task for us all to manage, that you need to lean on people and listen to people to keep progressing. And that was I thank a very early boss in my career for those lessons. He was absolutely correct. I have lost my job before. And I have had to reach out to a lot of people in my career to learn those lessons. So that's probably the biggest lessons I've learned.
What do you think are the current procurement trends or hot topics, and what emerging roles do you think we'll see off the back of that in procurement as a result?
So social value is definitely the hottest topic at the moment. I think everyone is talking about it, and there are going to be multiple tools and obligations and initiatives that we are going to have to engage and embrace. Absolutely, I think that's a hot topic. Trends-wise, I think supply chain de-risking, absolutely. So you're going to see, a lot of companies, you can take Apple as an example, diversifying supply chain dependency away from, single geographical areas into a wider global network. So I think that's something else that's happening. Technology is always going to be one. I think we're in probably, a 10-year cycle where the mid-sized company catches up with what technology has to offer and actually uses the technology that they have. So I think you're going to see a quite rapid evolution. Rapid, 5-10 years, is that rapid? I think for a lot of companies, if you've been around for 50 years, doing a full technology backbone within a 3, 4, 5 year program can be pretty challenging and pretty rapid. So I think those are the sorts of things that are the hot topics. And I think the use of technology to create a more robust, risk-averse business, to deliver value, deliver efficiency, to give businesses the ability to be data-driven, fact-driven, having data on your phone as you walk around, live real data, all those sorts of things. Those I think are probably the key to social value and technology.
Great stuff. Are most of your clients in the UK, Jonjo?
Probably about 75%, 50% maybe. We've got some very, very long-standing European clients, but we execute all around the world. We execute in the US and Europe. We have we've had to travel out to China, and we've executed in Russia. So there are a number of geographies, but yeah, mainly I would say 75% in the UK.
And can you give us a bit of an overview of how your business model at CPS has been affected by both COVID and now Brexit with the new trade deal?
So pick them off one by one. As far as COVID is concerned, I think it was, we were beginning to do more work with the private sector, and I think that slowed down. So there was an instant sort of back to a little bit more focus on central and local government. I think that's fair to say. I think most companies will recognize that. Yeah. As far as executing, very little impact. Some of the big programs around technology have been paused. So say SAP implementations, etc. Some of those have absolutely been paused as private sector companies wish to sort of preserve cash as opposed to continue with programs not knowing where COVID was going. But in terms of the ability to execute, we haven't really had any challenges. It's just really adapting to clients' adjusted timeframes, whatever initiatives they were doing, and possibly pivoting some of the teams that they've got towards other initiatives, things that may have been put on hold before. So we've done a lot of work with clients on clean data, creating that source of truth data set that enables them to sort of refocus their procurement initiatives, strategies based on better data sets. We did quite a lot of that, and around contracts. Did a lot of contract database work during COVID. As far as Brexit is concerned, lots and none, probably, is the honest answer. We've had a lot of conversations and done elements of pivoting with clients, but in reality, it's not stopped any client from engaging with us. So when I say lots, I mean, yes, there's change. When I say none, it means no client has said, you're a UK-based consulting business, so I'm not going to work with you after Brexit. I think maybe there are companies who haven't quite got to where they need to as far as being able to operate post-Brexit, and maybe there's some bumps in the road as we come out of that, plus COVID. But so far, it's just been a gradual preparation in the bits that we support them with to ensure that those mainly providers that they work with have been able to continue afterwards.
Fantastic. Great stuff. That's really, really interesting. With regards to this next section, Jonjo, this is less about procurement and your professional life and more about you as a person.
Yep.
What do you like to get up to in your spare time? Do you have any favourite books or films or destinations or sport?
I suppose, like many people, a bit of everything. I have 3 daughters, so that keeps me busy. And my wife's been doing a doctorate as well, so that again is something we've been sort of adapting to. I used to play cricket quite a lot, but my knees have fallen apart, so that's sort of come to an end. Quite a lot of reading, all sorts. Everything from historical fiction through to industry-related, in inverted commas, homework. Travel when we can. Obviously, not a lot lately. We're lucky enough. I'm lucky enough. I lived in Paris for 1.5 years. I lived in Germany for 3 years. Traveled a lot personally and sort of for work, and really enjoy that and really miss it at the moment. So put that lot together, I think that's pretty much takes up most of my time.
Fantastic. And if you could give any advice to your younger self, Jonjo, what would it be?
Listen to older people more. They've been there, done it, they've got the experiences. It's not the arrogance of youth, it's the excessive confidence of youth. I would say listen more. Listen more,
I like it. Very good. This is one that often stumbles, it trips people up quite often because it puts you on the spot, but can you tell us an interesting fact about yourself?
An interesting fact about myself. I'm not sure if many of them are repeatable. Interesting fact about myself. I don't think there are that many, to be honest. Most people know them.
You met any famous people?
Have I met famous people? A few, but I'm not going to say that I've met famous people as my interesting fact. I once lived on a beach in Jamaica for 6 months.
Now that is interesting. There's got to be a good story behind that one.
Yeah, I'm just going to have to leave it at there, though. I'm afraid they're not repeatable.
Nice. You're a man of mystery. You'll keep people guessing on that one, I think.
Yeah. Yes, I will keep people guessing.
Great. Do you have a personal motto that you live by, or any kind of words of wisdom? And if so, what are they?
I think there are so many, sort of little sayings that people like to brandish about. But I think from experience, the times I don't enjoy at work are when I'm not prepared, when I haven't thought through, when I try to go into something a little bit not ready, when I haven't thought through what I need to say, I don't have the right data with me or whatever it may be. So if anything, it would be prepared. If you want to put it in Latin, semper paratus.
That's brilliant. I like that. I think that's good advice for anybody in any career, to be honest.
Yeah.
Great stuff. Well, look, that concludes the interview, Jonjo. I personally really enjoyed it, and I'd like to thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.